Good morning, all. So far, in the last class, we were discussing purchase power parity theory. So, to recall, there are two versions in purchase power parity theory. One is absolute version, and another one is relative version. So, absolute version, with the help of absolute version, we determine the exchange rate between two currencies with the help of commonly used goods in both the countries. So in our example, we have taken rice, and 1 kilo rice is priced at rupees 50 in India, and it is priced at $1 per kilo in US. So on the basis of price of the 1 kilo rice, we have determined the exchange rate. $1 is equals to rupees 50. So absolute version explains that if there is no parity between exchange rate and price of the commodity, and that goods starts moving from one country to another. So the limitation, if we discuss about limitation of purchase power parity theory, maybe it's quite important thing for your SEM exam, the limitations. And if you are explaining purchase power parity theory with the along with the limitation, so you have to keep in mind that purchase power parity theory never considers transportation cost. See, it simply says if there is no parity between, if there is mismatch between exchange rate and price of the commodity, then that particular goods or commodity starts moving from one country to another country. But it cannot move freely. So it has certain transportation cost involved in it. So purchase power parity theory never considers transportation cost. And it simply says that if there is no parity, if there is mismatch between exchange rate between US dollar and rupees, is 50. $1 is equals to rupees 50, and rice is priced at $1 in US, and the same 1 kilo rice is priced at rupees 45 in India. That means exchange rate is $1 is equals to rupees 50, and the price of the rice is 45 rupees per kilo in India. So US person thinks that if I convert my dollar to Indian rupee, I get rupees 50 per dollar. If I buy rice from India, I need to pay only 45 rupees per kilo, and 5 rupee remains with me. So that rice starts moving from that rice, India starts exporting rice to US. US people starts importing rice from India. So one limitation of this theory, it never considers transportation cost. And one more limitation is government policies or foreign policies. See, if government bans exporting rice from India because there is a lack of productivity here, there is a lack of cultivation of paddy field in India, so government may put restriction to export rice to some other country because we need rice within our country's need. So if the government says no, you cannot export, then purchase power parity theory holds not good in this case. So there are such type of limitations involved in it. I will I will give the notes on these things, limitation of this theory. So the next theory we are going to discuss is interest rate parity theory, or in short it is called as IRP. Interest rate parity theory, in short we call it as IRP. Again there is a word, parity. Parity means match, equal. So there must be two variables we are going to compare under this theory. So which are those two variables? One is, say for example, we are discussing interest rate parity theory. So interest rate in India is 8% and the same interest rate in US is, say for example, 4%, and spot rate between one US dollar one is equals to rupees 71.25. If the rate of the exchange after 1 year forward rate will be US dollar one is equals to rupees 73.48. All the figures are assumption. So there are the given in the given data interest rate in India. Interest rate, it is assumed that in this interest rate parity theory, we assume that the interest rate is same for both deposits and lending. So, but it never happens. That is the limitation of this theory. We will discuss that later. So, interest rate in India for deposit of money is 8%, and if you borrow loan in India, any bank in India, you have to pay 8% interest rate. If you deposit, you will get 8% in return. If you borrow money, you have to pay 8% interest rate. And the spot rate today is rupees 71.25 and likely forward rate after 1 year may be rupees 73.48 per US dollar. Now we are discussing about the parity between two variables. Since there is a word parity in interest rate parity theory, we have to compare two variables and we need to find if there is any parity between these two variables. So the two variables are the interest rate is given in both the countries. So interest rate differential is equals to interest rate differential is nothing but the difference between two countries interest rate. So difference of the interest rate, one is 8% in India and another one is 4% in US. So interest rate differential will be 4%. This is one variable we are going to compare. And the second variable we need to find the parity between with this is spread percentage. Why we are going to compare these two? I will let you know later. So spread percentage, formula for the spread percentage is forward rate minus spot rate divided by spot rate multiplied by 100. So in the given problem, the forward rate is 73.48 minus 71.25 divided by 71.25 multiplied by 100. So it comes up to 3.12%. So now we are going to compare between interest rate differential and spread percentage. So interest rate parity theory always depends or always relies upon the two variables. It talks about the two variables. One is interest rate differential. There will be three scenarios we are going to discuss. Three scenarios in the sense, one scenario there will be parity between these two. There will be parity in the sense if the interest rate differential is 4%, spread percentage is also 4%. That means there is a parity, there is a matching between these two variables. And another scenario, this is the scenario 1. Another scenario, interest rate differential may be greater than spread percentage. What happens then? Another scenario is spread percentage might be greater than interest rate differential. So in the given problem, interest rate differential is 4% and the spread percentage is 3.12%. That means there is a little parity between these two. There is no much difference between these two variables. So whoever see this given data, interest rate in India is 8%, interest rate in US is 4%. So by simply seeing this data, if we borrow loan in US for 4% and if we invest in India at the rate of 8%, definitely we will earn profit. Because if you borrow loan in US, you have to pay 4% interest rate. If you borrow from India, you have to pay 8%. If you borrow from US at 4%, and if you deposit the same amount, same money in India at 8%, simply by sitting idly, you can earn profit by seeing this data. So eventually, excuse me, eventually is there a reality on such a type of borrowings and depositing? We need to illustrate these things. So with the help of given data, you have to note down these data. Now, I will note it here. Interest in India 8%, interest in US 4%, spot rate rupees 71.25 per US dollar. Likely forward rate after 1 year is rupees 73.48 per US dollar. With the help of these things, if we illustrate, let us see. So if there will be two scenarios. One, if you borrow from US and you deposit in India. And another scenario, you borrow from India and you deposit in US. So let us see if you borrow. Step 1 to illustrate. Borrow rupees 1 lakh in Indian bank or from Indian bank and you go to US, you cannot simply deposit this rupees 1 lakh in US bank. Say for example, Citibank in US. You borrow 1 lakh from State Bank of India in India and you go to US and you are going to deposit this money in US. But US bank, they never accept rupee denominated money. So you have to convert it, convert to US dollar at spot rate. So rupees 1 lakh is converted. Now you are converting US dollar to Indian rupee. 1,403 dollars. Now you deposit in US bank for 1 year and US gives you 4% interest. So principal amount is 1,403 US dollar plus interest 56.12 dollar. You earn the interest of 56.12 dollar for 1 year, depositing 1 year in US bank. You get the return of 1459 1459 US dollars. Now you get this matured amount after 1 year. See, so far what you have done, you borrowed rupees 1 lakh from SBI and you go to US to deposit in US dollar. You converted 1 lakh rupees at the spot rate. You get 1,403 US dollar. You have deposited in Citibank in US and you get the interest of 4%, interest 4% for 1 year, 56.12. The matured amount after 1 year is 1,459.12 dollars. Now we convert it Indian rupee. So dollar 1459.12 after 1 year exchange rate is rupees 73.48 US dollar. That becomes 1,07,260 rupees. 1,07,216 rupees. If you convert after 1 year to Indian rupee, you get 1,07,260. But the illustration never ends here. So you have borrowed from Indian bank, now you have to pay them back your borrowed money. So loan repayable. So borrowed money, borrowed amount is rupees 1 lakh and you have to pay the interest of 8%. 8% in the sense 8,000 rupees. So altogether you have to pay 1 lakh 8,000. Loan repayable is 1 lakh 8,000. The earned money or matured amount after 1 year is rupees 1,07,216 what you have earned. With this rupee you have to repay the loan. Loan repayable is rupees 1 lakh 8,000. So what did you earn? Ultimately you have lost rupees 783 783 rupees is the loss. So what you have done so far? You have borrowed from India and deposited in US by converting to US dollar. You have lost rupees 783 for 1 year. Now The illustration one, if you borrow from India, you lost rupees 783. Now, second scenario, if you borrow the loan, earlier we have discussed that 4% is, you can get the loan at the 4% in US. So, you are going to deposit, you are borrowing in US and you are depositing in Indian bank now. So, to borrow from US, borrow in Citibank US worth 1 lakh, because earlier also we have taken the assumed figure of 1 lakh. So worth 1 lakh, how many dollars you have to borrow? 71.1403 US dollar, 1403.50. So simply see, this is the illustration only. We will solve problems on IRB theory from next class onward. So 1403.50, if you are going to deposit in India worth 1 lakh Indian rupee, so you have to borrow 1403.50. 1 lakh divided by 71.25 is 1403.50, worth 1 lakh if you are going to deposit in India. So to deposit in India, you have to convert to Indian rupee. That becomes rupees 1 lakh. And if you deposit in India, you get 8% interest in India, that is 8,000. You ultimately earn 1 lakh 8,000 after 1 year. So since you are a US person, US citizen, you have borrowed money from US bank and you have converted to Indian rupee at the spot rate, it becomes 1 lakh. So you have deposited this 1 lakh in Indian bank and you get 8% of interest on your deposit. So matured amount you get after 1 year is 1 lakh 8,000. So 1 lakh 8,000, with the 1 lakh 8,000 you have to, now you are going back to US, so you have to reconvert to US dollar. So rupees 1 lakh 8,000, after 1 year, the exchange rate between US dollar to rupee becomes 73.48. So the amount you get is 1469 1469.78 US dollar you get after 1 year. Now you have borrowed from US bank, so you have to pay them back your loan. Loan repayable, borrowed amount is US dollar 1403. 1403.50. So interest rate charged in US is 4%. That becomes $56. Interest for 1 year is $56.14. So loan repayable is 1459 1459.64. The amount you have to pay them back. Now the amount you have earned is 1469. Profit or loss after 1 year, 1469.78 you have earned. In with the help of this amount, you are paying your loan. Loan repayable is 1459.64. Almost, don't figure I am taking, almost we are earning $10. So you have earned $10. To earn $10, the activities you have done so far is you have borrowed certain dollar from American bank and you reconvert it to Indian rupee for the purpose of depositing same amount in India and you have deposited and after 1 year you get some amount 1,08,000. Now you since you are a US people US citizen now you are repayable your loan in US dollar because you have borrowed from Citibank US. Now you are paying them back you have to reconvert it to dollar that becomes 1469.78. With the help of this amount you are paying your borrowed amount borrowed loan along with the interest rate is 1459.64. Now your profit on this activity all these activities $10 merely $10. So the if you borrow from US you get $10 as US dollar 10 $10 you have earned so far. So if you borrow from India, you have lost money, rupees 783. But if you compare this with the borrowed money, that is 1 lakh, 783 is very negligible amount. And if you borrow from US bank, that is 1400 3.50, you have earned $10 after 1 year. That is also not significant amount. Why? If you arbitrage in the sense borrow from one market, borrow from India or US and depositing the same amount in another market, that is in India or US, the profit or loss is illustrated here. Why there is no significant amount you have earned or lost is there is a little parity between interest rate differential and spread percentage. Spread percentage was 3.12% and the interest rate differential was 4%. So there is a little parity 4% and 3.12%. So there is a very similar figure. That is the reason your profit or loss is not that much significant amount. So in the next class onwards, again we will see other two scenarios, which is interest rate differential is greater than spread percentage and the spread percentage might be greater than interest rate differential. We will illustrate these two in next class. Thank you.